In the morning of December 25th, 2024, Russian military air defense system shot down the Embraer passenger jet of Azerbaijan Airlines en route from Baku to Grozny. Most likely, it was a mistake, as the Russian military shot the passenger jet as the Ukrainians were executing their attack of the attack drones. The aircraft was heavily damaged but was still airborne. Instead of providing all possible help to land the damaged aircraft in Grozny or at any nearby airport and save people's lives, Russian Air Command traffic controller forbade the Embraer 190 to land in Grozny and in all nearby Russian airports. And there are plenty just miles away, dozens of miles away, including a military airbase. They directed the flight 8243 to cross the Caspian Sea instead and land in Kazakhstan, some 400 kilometers away. The plane managed to cross the sea and crash-landed near the city of Aktau. 38 people died and 29 survived, including 2 crew members. What happened in Grozny and Aktau is a tragedy, but what followed later in Russia has been nothing but lies and farce. Right now, 2 weeks later, Russia is facing serious consequences. And this is what I want to talk about. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin, and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, you will not find here BS, lies, and propaganda. Instead, you will find truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions, because I'm a human being, after all. Before I start my today's message, I want to give my condolences to the families of the victims of the catastrophe. In this video, I tell my version of what happened. What I am telling today is my opinion, not official opinion, and this is what I think. The official investigation is still underway, and once it's done, I will surely inform you of its results. But so far, it's what I am seeing at this situation. Is my opinion. First things first. I'd like to remind you that what happened on December 25th and in the following few days. Okay. What happened was the Azerbaijan airline called Azal, passenger plate, Embraer 190, flight 8243, flying a regular flight, operating a regular flight from Baku, Azerbaijan to Grozny, Chechnya, was shot down, or it appears at this point, it was shot down by a Russian missile system called Pantsir, and it's supposed to protect Russian airspace from, the enemies. So it was shot. 1 minute after the attack took place, special security protocol called Kovер, the carpet, was initiated at Grozny airport and around airports near Grozny. A kind of coincidence that stinks miles away, don't you think? The pilots immediately notified the air control of the accident that happened to them, and they repeatedly requested emergency landing. And they were denied the emergency landing and directed eastwards, westwards would be towards Europe, eastwards to cross the Caspian Sea and land in Kazakhstan. And the Caspian Sea is about 400 kilometers wide. The plane air communications electronics were suppressed by anti-drone defense system after, and the plane kind of went silent and invisible. It went off the radars. Only appeared after it left Russia's airspace. The flight 8243 made it to Aktau. It sharply descended from the sky and a big explosion followed. It hard landed, it crash landed. Russian airspace agency Rosaviatsia immediately released a statement that the most likely reason for the crash was a flock of birds hitting plane's engine or engines. Then another statement was released. It said that an oxygen tank on board of the plane exploded, resulting the crash. By some miracle, and I don't even know how to call this event other than miracle, half of passengers and 2 crew members have survived. And when the rescuers arrived at the crash site, they found something that was not supposed to be found. Something that was not supposed to be there. The fuselage of the plane with the evidence of it being shot down. And the survivors ready to tell the stories. This is what they find at the crash site. And Russian Rosaviatsia was telling that it was the birds hitting the plane. That is the tail of the plane, by the way. Birds, you see? Birds. Well, you know what? I covered all of this more or less in the live stream I made right after the crash or shutdown took place. What I want to focus your attention on today, what has happened after, because I find it's very important. The following day, December 26, the chairman of the Chechnyan government, Hassan Hakimov, this guy right here, stated that on behalf of the head of Chechnyan Republic of Russian Federation, Ramzan Kadyrov, all families of those killed and injured in the disaster would be provided with financial and all other assistance they need. Now, why would the Chechnyans do that if there was just a flock of birds hitting the plane? Chechnya, you see, has nothing to do with that accident. If, of course, the flock of birds were really hitting the plane, it happens. It happens, okay? Yet it offers financial and all other assistance to the survivors and the families of the victims. Very odd. A coincidence, well, it's not really a coincidence, it's an oddity that kind of stings miles away. The chief of president's staff of Azerbaijan immediately gave an answer. I quote the official statement. Azerbaijan does not need any help. Neither the state nor the citizens will accept such assistance. We provide and will continue to provide necessary assistance to our citizens. Azerbaijan demands recognition of the fact of shooting the plane down, apologies and payment of appropriate compensation. A pretty straightforward answer. I think the Chechens should have not offered their help in the first place. They wouldn't have got this answer right into their face. On the same day, both Euronews and Reuters, the respectable news agencies, cited sources inside Azerbaijan government informing that Azerbaijan was convinced that the crash was caused by a Russian missile. The Azerbaijan side believes that the missile was fired at the aircraft en route from Baku to Grozny during an aerial activity of a drone over Grozny. The missile exploded next to the plane, damaging its fuselage, decompressing the plane, and that resulted in a crash landing. Russian President's press secretary Dmitry Peskov immediately made a public statement. Of course, we wouldn't expect any less of Dmitry Peskov. I quote, "The Kremlin is aware of the statement of Baku that Russia should apologize for the crash of the Azerbaijan airline plane in Aktau, but the Kremlin has no right to make assessments until the investigation is completed." I know. I know. It's Dmitry Peskov was quite something. I agree. Then something very unusual and unexpected started happening that Russia did not expect at all. Azerbaijan Airlines, Azal, announced the suspension of flights from Baku to 7 Russian cities starting December 28th. This is reported by the Association Press with reference to the airline statement. And from now on, I will talk of indirectly. I'll be taking information directly from the airline's statements. So Azal was the first. First, it was 7 cities that it stopped flying to. It continued to fly to Moscow and St. Petersburg and Kazan, but then it dropped Kazan a few days later. This decision was made in connection to the results of the preliminary investigation of the Embraer 190 plane crash and possible risks to flight safety. No kidding. Immediately after that, Kazakhstan airline Kazakh Air suspended flights from Kazakhstan capital Astana to Yekaterinburg until January 27th of this year. The suspension of flight is carried out due to the safety of passengers and crew members based on the results of an ongoing risk assessment of flights to Russia. What a spit in the face to Russia. Immediately after, Fly Dubai United Arab Emirates airline canceled flights from Dubai to Sochi and Minvodi until further notice. What a spit in the face of Russia. Then, immediately after, Turkmenistan Airlines canceled flights between Ashgabat, the country's capital, and Moscow for the period from December 30th of 2024 through January 31st, 2025. What a spit in the face to Russia. Immediately after, Israeli airline Israeli airline canceled flights from Israel to Moscow until the end of March 2025. What a spit in the face of Russia. The former president of Azal, Adalat Aliyev, this guy right here, made a commentary to the Azerbaijan media about the shooting down a passenger plane. His comment is, the refusal, the shooting down of the passenger plane, as well as the refusal of the nearest airports in Russia to grant permission for an emergency landing, are not only an inhumane act, but also criminal offense. And you know what? It's extremely hard to disagree with Honorable Adalat Aliyev. Meanwhile, when Russian officials realized that the flight 8243 didn't crash and sink in the Caspian Sea, they tried to launch its own investigation rather than the international investigation. But it was refused by Azerbaijan, which stated that it's going to have an international commission to investigate the tragedy. Then Russia decided to blame the pilots, who allegedly made the decision to fly to Aktau, where the airports were open, which is a lie. And they traditionally blamed Ukraine, of course. This is TASS report. Check this out. Due to the plane crash near Aktau, Russian side has announced both Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan of its willingness to investigate. It is necessary to investigate thoroughly the reason why the crash happened. The situation around Grozny airport was very difficult while the plane was attempting landing. Ukrainian drones were carrying out a terrorist attack on innocent people and the civilian buildings. That is why the security measure cover, the carpet, was the security protocol was implemented at the airport. So all aircraft had to leave this airspace. Besides, there was a fog at the airport of Grozny, which is a lie. The commander was given other Russian airports to fly to and land. That's what the man says. The pilot commander made the decision to fly to Aktau airport. There are so many circumstances needs to be investigated. And we're ready to investigate. So that fella, that's a Russian official, he gave this report, he made this statement to TASS news agency, Russia's propaganda premier agency, basically telling lies, telling that the Russian airports were open for the airplane to land, but the pilot himself made the decision to fly to Aktau. Well, wait, very soon the black boxes with voice recordings, will be deciphered, and we will see the truth. We'll definitely see the light. Anyway, right after this statement by this fellow on TASS, Vladimir Putin came out and, he talked to Ilham Aliyev, the Azerbaijani president, and he apologized for the accident. During the conversation with Azerbaijan president, Vladimir Putin apologized for the Azal's flight 8243 disaster that occurred in Russian airspace. And that's what I saw at the Kremlin's website. Now, it's an official statement they made. The statement also said that the leaders of the two countries discussed the situation during a call initiated by Russian side, meaning Vladimir Putin called Azerbaijan president. Let me quote the official statement. Vladimir Putin apologized for the tragic incident that occurred in the Russian airspace and once again expressed his deep and sincere condolences to the families of the victims and wished a speedy recovery for the injured. I end quote. Putin apologized for the tragic incident that occurred in Russian airspace. A tragic incident, you know, the birds. Not for shooting down the plane. No, just for this tragic accident happening. Ilham Aliyev noted that Azerbaijan Airlines passenger plane, while in the Russian airspace, was subjected to extreme physical and technical influence from the outside and completely lost control, was sent to Kazakh city of Aktau and was able to make an emergency landing thanks to the bravery and professionalism of the pilots. Ilham Aliyev, answering Putin's call, stressed that there are numerous holes in the fuselage of the aircraft, passenger and crew members, while still in the air, were injured by foreign particles that penetrated the fuselage and got into the cabin of the aircraft. And that testimonials of the surviving flight attendants of the passengers and the passengers of the aircraft confirm the fact that external physical and technical impact. During the conversations, the conversation, the heads of the state discussed a serious and comprehensive investigation of all details of this tragedy and bringing the perpetrators to justice. The press service of the president of Azerbaijan informed everyone. Ilham Aliyev noted that at the suggestion of Azerbaijan side, a group of consisting of international experts has been organized for a comprehensive investigation of the causes of the crash and already was executing the activities. And you know what? Russian propaganda went irate. How dares he? Azar apologized. He said, I apologize for this tragic incident, whatever, in the Russians' airspace. That's something that the Tsar never does to anyone. He never apologizes, and he apologized to Aliyev. And Aliyev dares to respond like that. Azerbaijan is acting as if it is being told to do so by the West, etc. Articles like that started appearing everywhere, in the Telegram channels, in the media, and so forth. This is just, I'm going to give you one example what this thing looked like. It says, Aliyev began to ostentatiously rude, Aliyev has become ostentatiously rude after Putin's apologies. They want to rub Moscow's face in dirt and humiliate it in front of the entire world. That's what the article says. And there are plenty of articles like that. Except for one thing. They don't want to do that. They just want apologies. You see, you shot down their plane, passenger plane, full of nationals from the citizens of Azerbaijan. They want apologies. They want to find the responsible ones and prosecute them according to the law. And it's Moscow that has rubbed its face in dirt and humiliated itself in front of the entire world once again. See, propaganda gets it wrong, but hey, it's propaganda for you. It always gets it wrong. So this what followed, and Putin apologized right at the end of the year, and Ilham Aliyev came out with his own statement saying that's not enough, okay? You have to say clearly you shot down the plane, not freaking incident, happening in Russia's airspace, tragic incident. No. You shot down the plane, you must admit it, and you must find the responsible ones. So the propaganda started stirring up a storm, so to speak. Okay, and that storm was, of course, aimed at Russian people. Now, before I jump to early 2025 and what happened then, I would like to thank you, everyone who has been helping me by supporting, by watching this channel, by liking videos, by commenting them, by sending me words of encouragement, by praying along with me, and by sending me love, by buying me coffee at buymecoffee.com, by becoming patrons, by sending funds via PayPal. Thank you so very much. Monetized, demonetized, making money on YouTube, not making money, doesn't matter. I am going to keep on coming in front of this camera and telling you the truth every single day. I took a little break of 6 days. It's over. I'm recharged, full of energy and ready to go. It's going to be every day again. So thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. After Putin's quasi-apology and the Russian officials, they changed tactic a little bit. They actually switched to the very common tactic they always use. You see, before they started releasing statements saying, oh, it was a flock of birds, oh, there was a tank of oxygen, explosion inside the plane. But then, at the end of the year, literally January 2nd, they just went silent. All the officials went silent. You see, Russian propaganda kept on biting at Aliyev personally for not being loyal to Russia, for putting a knife into Putin's back again, etc. Stuff like that, They started remembering Aliyev's sins. Oh, remember how he behaved? Oh, remember he shot down Russia's military airplane 10 years ago and so forth, But no one talked about the accident, about the downing of the passenger jet. They were trying to downplay the accident as much as they could. Then on January 6th, Azerbaijan's president Ilham Aliyev again made a high-profile statement about the downing of the Azal airline flight in Chechnya. He blamed the representatives of the Russian Federation, read Russian government, for the plane crash in Aktau and accused the Russian authorities of trying to conceal the circumstances of the incident. I quote Azerbaijan president, "I can say with confidence that the representatives of Russian federations are to blame for the fact that Azerbaijani citizens died in that disaster. And we demand justice. We demand the punishment of those responsible. We demand full transparency and human behavior." I end quote. Boy, I understand everything, but human behavior has been in real short supply in Russia in the last 3 years, okay? But I understand Ilham Aliyev very well. Yes, situations like that indeed require call for human behavior. flight attendants started talking. According to Aliyev, the disaster could have been avoided if the Chechnyan authorities had closed the airspace in a timely manner. The ground services had acted in accordance with the rules, and the Russian armed forces and civil services had people with proper coordination. Attempts to conceal the circumstances of the incident and presented as the result of a collision with birds or a gas tank explosion have raised serious doubts about the objectivity of investigation, said Ilham Aliyev. In addition, he stressed that if the Russian authorities had attempted to objectively investigate the accident in the first hours after the plane crash, Azerbaijan would gladly have allowed to, Interstate Aviation Committee to decrypt the black boxes. That's how it has been done. The president said, since the plane crashes, even in the former USSR, it's always been done like that. But that's the Russia's behavior in the first hours after the plane crash resulted that Azerbaijan pushed Russia away from the investigation. And I think that Azerbaijan did a very right decision. Again, quoting the Azerbaijan president, I am sure that the near future we will know the preliminary result and everything will fall into right places. The whole picture of the tragedy will be known. And this, of course, will be an important moment in full investigation of this tragedy and the punishment of those responsible for it. Well, Mr. Aliyev, I understand what you're saying, but will you be able to punish the responsible ones for the shooting down your plane in Russia? Well, that's where I have doubts, because there are many responsible for other deaths over 3 years. They have not been investigated, they have not been punished. But anyway, it's a little off topic now. The European Aviation Safety Agency has published a new directive called Clean 2025-01. And that's a little present to Russia. Okay? This the directive concerns flights over the territory of Russia. The document entered into force on January 9th, this morning, and it's valid through July 31st of this year. It contains recommendations for airlines from EASA member countries, as well as from other countries operating flights to and from European Union. And the main content of this directive boils down to a call to avoid using Russian airspace west of the 60th meridian, except in cases where it is necessary for safe flight operations. This decision is related to the ongoing instability in this region. Almost the entire European part of Russia is located west of the 60th meridian, which is about everything on the map to the left of Yekaterinburg. Namely, the flight information maps areas of Moscow, St. Petersburg, Rostov-on-Don, Samara, and Yekaterinburg. Right now, Russian propaganda has intensified the attacks on Aliyev. Aliyev is acting on the behalf of the West. Aliyev wants to rock Russia's boat. Aliyev this, Aliyev that. How dares he? And you know what? The culmination of this situation has been a member of Russian parliament's public chamber, Vladimir Karasyov, called the president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, how would I say that nicely and softly, not to offend anyone? He called him a very rude word that starts with F, and that's it describes it's a curse, a swear word for a homosexual person. Okay, and then he personally, openly called the president of Azerbaijan that word. The Azerbaijan parliament immediately demanded the apology and prosecution of Karasyov, according to Russian law. Dmitry Peskov came out and said that, and it all happened today, and he said that the Kremlin knows nothing of the personal insult of the president of Azerbaijan by the Russian official. How convenient of Dmitry Peskov. Again, we wouldn't expect anything less of him, right? Magical answer. Oh, we don't know anything about that. We're not aware. Well, you are aware now. I am telling you that, okay? If you're not, you're pretty lousy press secretary. And if the Kremlin doesn't know of this personal insult, you need to be fired and replaced. All of you. This is a big scandal, by the way. The situation also shows what kind of people, officials are in the Russian parliament, calling these names the presidents of other countries. It's actually quite unbelievable. This is right here is what's the proof? Basically, that's a screenshot of a major Russian media called Lenta, where it actually describes this insult and this situation that is happening. That's insane. Every Friday I come up with a news update for a previous week, and I call this news from such updates crazy news from Russia. I think this is beyond crazy. I don't even know how to call this news. If you know yourself, please let me know down below in the comments. I would really like to hear your opinions. The situation with downing of Azal's flight 8243 is still developing. With 15 days from now, the black boxes of the plane, the black boxes data is expected to be retrieved and interpreted, deciphered. And I believe that Russia will pay for shooting down the passenger jet. I believe that it will be proven. I mean, it is safe to say that Russia has shot it down. Of course, there is no proof. The proof is in the black box. The proof is also in the interviews of the survivors. A couple dozen people, a little over 2 dozens people survived, including 2 crew members. And they speak up, they tell the truth. Both flight attendant, the stewardess, and the steward were interviewed, very emotional interviews. I wanted to show them at first, but they both were crying at the interviews, and I think it's just too disturbing to show, okay? But they explain what happened. They tell of the 2 shots at the plane, not 1, but 2. They explain the plane was depressurized. They explain that the pieces of missiles, small pieces, penetrated the fuselage, and they hurt lots of people. Lots of people started bleeding, screaming of pain. And when they speak of that in the interview, they cry. okay? They're witnesses of the crime. There are video filming footage, there's video recordings, and that's also the evidence of the crime. And I'm pretty darn sure that within a couple of weeks, the official investigation will be over and the truth will come out. And I believe that this time, Vladimir Putin will pay. Well, Russia, not Putin, not personally. He won't pay. He doesn't care. He's surrounded by the bodyguards. That's not going to touch him in any way. But Russia will pay. Russia will pay. That's another huge black spot on my country, okay? This time, Vladimir Putin is up against a very serious opponent, Ilham Aliyev and Azerbaijan. And it is, well, you can say it a puppet state, vassal state, but Azerbaijan is very close to Turkey and Turkish President Recep Erdogan. And Turkey is one mighty powerful country these days. Putin is not getting away with this time. He has already been punched in his teeth, and his teeth are already flying all over, knocked out of his mouth. So, and I think it's gonna get even worse soon. Now, there will be plenty of news, and I would like to remind everyone that I carefully select 9 news that I find important every single day, including the news of the investigation of this terrible tragedy. And I make them available to patrons of patreon.com, patrons of Inside Russia at the patreon.com. I feel it's very important. If you want to know things Russia, it's very important to follow news as they develop, a situation as they uncover. That's why I make 9 news available every single day. I've come up with a formula 54. It's 54 news per week, every day except for Sunday. And if you follow this news, we'll pretty much will be up to date on everything what happens in Russia. So give it a chance. Become a patron, get access. I'm going to put the link down below in the comments after this live stream is over. Again, situation is far from over. I think it's just getting started. The next step of Azerbaijan will be proving that the plane was shot down, proving that the landing was denied in all Russian airports, proving that it was sent to Kazakhstan over the Caspian Sea, and proving that was a crime. And then, of course, there will be an investigation trying to find who's responsible. And who knows, we might see the responsible ones brought into justice. Or at least I hope so. I will see you all tomorrow. Carthago delenda est.